Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales but interested in helping people solve problems, or a founder CEO who is looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with the founder of Catalyst Sale, Mike Simmons. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
Well, it's always good to have you here on your show.
You shocked me. That's an awesome way to put it together. I guess if it'd be interesting if I wasn't here, and I don't even think about it as my show. Maybe I need to.
Yeah, well, that's good on my end. We've done so many episodes together for so long, and I still found a way to shock you.
You found a way to shock me. So, Jody, thank you.
Well, maybe somehow that ties into what we're talking about, because we're talking clarity and focus. And I can tell you behind the scenes, this has been a topic Mike Simmons has been ferocious on. He's been like the Theodore Roosevelt of clarity and focus the last several weeks. Why is this such a burning topic, Mike?
Well, why am I like the Theodore Roosevelt on this?
Well, how much do you know about Theodore Roosevelt? He was a very tenacious fellow. Here's an example. He used to play this game with his kids where they would go into the woods and they had to go in a straight line. It didn't matter what you came across. So you're in the woods, no trails, straight line. You couldn't vary from it, whether that meant going over, under, through, around, above, under, beneath. Didn't matter, straight line. And so that's what I think of with you. You've been so dogged about clarity and focus and learning more about it and getting more clarity. That's why you're the Theodore Roosevelt of clarity right now.
Perfect. And not only of clarity, it's of clarity, focus, and simplifying things. And today we'll focus primarily on clarity and focus and distinguishing between those two.
Well, then tell me, what's the difference, clarity and focus?
So I had to go to Webster's dictionary, online version. I didn't pull out the old paper version, but the way that Webster defines clarity is the quality or state of being clear, which scares me because I just remember from back in high school when I would use the same word in the definition. My teacher would not like it. So I went a little bit deeper, and there were some other English language learners' definition of clarity. And there are three that jumped out at me. One, the quality of being easily understood. Two, the quality of being expressed, remembered, understood, etc. in a very exact way. And the third one was the quality of being easily seen or heard. And I think those three statements around quality are pretty well representative of what are a representative way to look at something like clarity.
Wouldn't it be funny if your definition of clarity wasn't very clear?
It would be very interesting. I don't know how funny it would be. It would be ironic.
I guess it would be. Yes. Okay, so when you are working on this, clarity and focus, how do you divide it up? How do you know when you're working on clarity and how do you know when you're working on focus?
Yeah, so then you go into the definition of focus. So a center of activity, attraction, or attention. The focus of the meaning was drug abuse, put immigration into focus. There's some interesting words that they use or explanations. A state or condition permitting clear perception or understanding. Tried to bring the issue into focus. Adjustment for distinct vision. For me, focus is more around where am I pointing the light? Like where am I pointing the lens? Where am I pointing the flashlight toward? And where do I want this attention to be focused on? As I reuse the word, but where do I want to put my attention? Clarity is how do I make that image or that thing that I'm working on much sharper, much more detailed, much cleaner, so that the thing that I'm focusing on comes into better focus. So the clarity is a function of the thing that's inside the circle where I'm pointing the flashlight, so to speak. What do you think?
All right. I think I like it. I think now we have a base on clarity and focus. How does it matter in sales? Maybe that's a bad question because of course it matters.
Sure.
In what way? How does it improve sales? How does it improve what we do? if we give attention to clarity and focus?
I think the big thing that it does is it gives us a framework that we can use to make decisions on should we be doing certain work or not do certain work. Should we work with certain customers or not work with certain customers? Should we focus on specific problems or not focus on those problems? So how do we, clarity and focus can help us make better decisions when forced to make a decision on where we're going to spend time, energy, or attention. And coming out of the mastermind that we were both involved in or both a part of, well, I was a part of as a participant, you led it with Lee. We did a quick recording with Dan Cockrell and asked him that question about defining the difference between clarity and focus. Maybe we play Dan's distinction between clarity and focus and then carry the discussion beyond that. Good?
Okay, so let's hear from Dan Cockrell.
So Mike, you had mentioned that from the mastermind session, you had taken away 3 things you're thinking about was simplicity, focus, and clarity. And right away, I just thought about when you talk about focus and clarity for me, and simplicity kind of is in there also. But for me, there's 2 very specific things. And I think back to, I just finished writing a book. I started just over a year ago, and the publisher told me, and the editor told me I needed at least 45 to 50,000 words before we could start editing. He was very clear. We can't edit something that doesn't exist. So we need something from you. And so in the first 11 months of that year, I wrote 10,000 words. And in the last 4 weeks of that year, I wrote the other 44,000 words. And so from my point of view, the clarity and the simplicity part of the book was, let me figure out how we're going to put this together. If I got to write this many chapters, what's the formula? And for this book in particular, the formula was, Dan, start every chapter on the topic with a story that's going to highlight the topic or the behavior that you're talking about, and then write your opinion on the philosophy of that topic and what that's all about. And then every chapter is going to end with fast pass to results, which is 5 or 6 very specific tactical behaviors that people can implement to start implementing that strategy. And so that was the formula for every chapter. So I had to come up with, 22 different stories to start out the chapters with. I had to make sure I knew what my point of view and opinion was on the topic. And then I had to come up with 5 or 6 very specific examples. So that was the simplicity and the clarity part for me. The focus part was actually for 30 days in a row, getting up every morning and sitting either at a cafe or at the kitchen table for at least an hour and not leaving that table for that full hour. And some mornings I wrote the title of the next chapter, and that's all I had. And then that 24-hour period between writing that and sitting down to write again, I'd write 2,000 or 3,000 words in one sitting. And it just happened. And I realized that the focus was get it done. And so, and I had no distractions. It was early in the morning. No one was calling me. No one was seeing if I could do any extra errands for them. And I was able to get that done. And that's something I learned from my dad. He talked about is if you want to write a book, you get up every day, you sit down every day and you block time. And that's all you do for whatever period of time that's going to be. And I couldn't believe after 4 weeks that I had written 44,000 words. Now, my wife read the book after and she told me, hey, did you realize you told the same story 3 times? And I said, no, I didn't, because I've never read the book. I only wrote it. So there was a lot of editing afterwards. But simplicity and clarity is what is the formula that you're going to use to solve issues in your life. Maybe that's investing time in people. Maybe it's having time for yourself, whatever that's going to be. And focus is the discipline and the planning just to get it done. And that's usually, that's a hard part. But if you really buckle down and put some pressure on yourself, you can really get anything done you want. And the last thing I'll end with is my wife and I were in Croatia a few months ago, and we asked the hotel company at the end of the week, what's the biggest thing you took away from the week from everything we've talked to you about? And it's funny, out of all the stuff we talked to them about, the owner said, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. He loved that. And that's how you write a book, and that's how you raise your kids, and that's how you get anything big done. You eat it 1 bite at a time. And if every day you take a bite, before you know it, you've tackled some huge undertaking. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents for that and hope that helps.
So that's an awesome couple of examples that Dan provided. And, just as he was describing that, I even refined the definition I gave before around the idea of taking a flashlight and shining it on the thing that you're going to focus attention on. and then creating that sharpness from a clarity within the spectrum of the flashlight. Think of it with an even higher level of tunnel vision. Imagine if you're looking at a problem through a straw, or a challenge, or a thing that you want to accomplish, a goal that you want to accomplish through a straw. It can help remove any of the outside distractions that might prevent you from executing on that thing that you want to accomplish. So in Dan's story, he shared he had to create that high level of focus relative to writing as a daily practice. And in the last 4 weeks of last year, he was able to go through and write 44,000 some odd words and hit the objective of 50,000 words that the publisher gave him, so that they have something they can edit through. So I think it's really cool to hear it in that context. In a future episode, we'll talk about simplifying things. But in this one, though, I want to really keep it on focus and clarity, though.
What Dan told us, I think, was very clear on the difference and how clarity and focus go together, which I'm glad you wanted to put these in the same episode, because with Dan's example, one of the things I heard was without clarity, and he didn't say it this way, but this is what I got. Without clarity, focus can actually get you in trouble, because if you're not clear about what you should be doing and then you focus, well, you could be focusing on the wrong thing. So you need clarity before you focus.
Well, it speaks to, it's kind of a chicken or the egg kind of discussion. So, right. So you get into this whole idea of, well, which one do I want? Do I want clarity or do I want focus? Well, just like everyday life, we breathe. We exhale and we inhale. If we're constantly inhaling, we're probably not going to be here very long. So there's this combination of exhale and inhale, exhale and inhale. There's this cyclical nature, this process that goes through. So focus can help you, or clarity can help you determine where do you want to focus. And then further clarity within that focus can help you with executing. And as you go through this process, determining, well, am I in that mode of clarifying something or focusing on something? So they absolutely go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah. And maybe that's, I said you need clarity before focus, but now I can also see where if you focus on something, that can end up giving you clarity. And you can say, wow, I've been focusing on this, but I need to shift it to this. So gosh, clarity gives you focus and focus gives you clarity. They do go hand in hand.
They definitely do.
Okay, if we turn this then to sales, give us an idea of the impact clarity and focus have in sales.
Yeah, so going back to that, the earlier piece around from a time management perspective, and where do you put attention and resources, it can help you with decision making. That's one side. So that's where do you deploy or operate or push certain resources. On the other side, if you start thinking about it from the customer perspective, by having a high level of clarity and focus, it will help you improve communication with that customer. The customer will have a better understanding of the things that you're working on. Keep in mind, the customer understands their business better than you'll ever understand it. Now, I know we've shared it before. One of my guiding principles is understand the customer better than they understand themselves. I just said customer understands their business better than you can, yet a guiding principle is understand the customer better than they understand themselves. The reason that that's an important thing to me is by identifying multiple people inside an organization, you can get various perspectives about what's happening inside that customer environment. So in turn, you can understand the organization at a better level than any one individual understands the organization. So that's how I would distinguish things there. On the customer side, if things are clear about how to work with you, why to work with you, what problems you solve in the marketplace, then there's going to be less chance, less risk for them to jump to conclusions and be uncertain about what you do, how you do it, whether or not it's within scope, whether or not you can solve things. And this reinforces a theme that we've talked about before. If you try to do everything for everybody, you're not really doing anything for one individual. It's really hard for people to understand, why would I even want to work with you? And one of my takeaways from this discussion from the mastermind was, how can I create a higher level of clarity in what we do from a catalyst cell perspective, clarity in what we're doing in the business, and focus attention so that I'm not doing things that are not aligned with that area of clarity.
Yeah, this is such a good conversation. One of the things I think we haven't been always clear about, we've for years now put out a great show, wonderful content that's helped a lot of people along the way. We've gotten more focused, we've gotten clarity, but we've never always been clear, Mike, about how people can work with Catalyst Sale. You know, we put out great information and don't always follow that up with, hey, here's how you can go deeper. Here's how you can work with us. Here's more you can do. So let's clear that up. How can people work with you, Mike? How can people work with Catalyst Sale?
And the timing on it's awesome. I had somebody listen to the podcast the other day and they gave me some feedback. They said, if I didn't know you, I would have no idea that you do the other work that you do behind other than what you do on the podcast. The podcast doesn't pay the bills. So how can people work with me and work with Catalyst Sale? And that's, one and the same. Number one, it's what you're doing today. You can engage directly with the podcast by listening to it, putting the work into practice, sharing examples of how you're putting into practice. Share those via LinkedIn and Twitter. So this is complimentary. You're the one who's investing time, energy, attention, and resources into putting the work into practice. You can do that through the podcast. You can do that through interaction with us on LinkedIn and Twitter and some of the blog posts and work that we're doing on Facebook. So that's one side. There's also a self-directed version of this where you take the ideas and concepts that we discuss in the podcast and use a design-oriented approach to put them into practice inside your business. So these are the courses. We launched Demystify Sales as a course last year. We've got a couple of other courses that will continue to roll out this year. We also have the Sprint of the Month Club that we rolled out earlier this year. These are self-directed with help type programs, and those are paid for programs. So you can find those on catalystsale.com. The third way is tailored, a tailored approach where I'll work directly with you in your business as a consultant, as an advisor at various stages in the organization to help accelerate each of these things that we talk about, whether it's validating product market fit or going through market feasibility or helping you hire your first VP of sales or helping you onboard your first couple of sales reps, actually working with the organization directly to help you execute on those things. So 3 ways: free, which is the podcast, blog posts, some of the templates that we share; self-directed, the course, the sprints; and then more tailored, personalized, the specific services that we provide as a business. And right now, that is the primary source of income that we have in the business, or those services that we provide. What do you think, Jody? Am I getting better with clarity?
Yes, you are. You are. I like it. It's very clear so people know what's good. And 2 things from this, Mike. One is now people understand how they can work with you, but also to go along with this episode, you have shown what clarity looks like. That when somebody says, "What do you do, Mike?" or "How can we work with you?" you have a very clear answer. So that ties in very nicely to the episode.
And it's a function of taking Teddy Roosevelt's approach. And actually, when I was documenting a lot of this, and I shared a lot of it on Twitter in real time, where I started putting the document together after the mastermind, I was in one of the bars, one of the lounges at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. And so maybe that's another tie-in with the great explorer and person who has pushed things forward like a Teddy Roosevelt. So a lot of tie-ins today in this podcast.
Yes, a lot of tie-ins. Okay, Mike, you've told us how we can work with you. As we wrap up, if someone just wants to reach out, ask a question, get a little deeper into the clarity discussion, how can they do that?
The best place to go is catalystsale.com. You can click on live chat. That will go directly into our Slack instance, and I'll respond to you that way. If you don't want to go to catalystsale.com and mess around with the live chat, you can also go to Twitter, Simmons_M on Twitter. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. If you just search for Mike Simmons and Catalyst Sale, I'm sure you'll see me pop up.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale podcast.